They called it a parking violation. But what the homeowners association really destroyed was the only snowplow, keeping an entire Colorado mountain valley from becoming a frozen tomb. My name is Jack Harlan. When a historic late-season blizzard slammed the Rockies, burying roads under 12 feet of snow, shutting down emergency routes, and trapping families inside homes with failing heat and empty medicine cabinets, I was the only person left with the equipment capable of carving an escape path. The association didn't like how my old machine looked parked beside my garage, so they towed it, gutted it, and left the whole valley to freeze while they sipped coffee behind double-pane windows. This is the true story of what happens when small-minded rules collide with a real emergency. How we fought back with maps, cameras, shovels, and stubbornness. And how one brutal winter finally exposed everything the board tried to hide. Because out here, you don't survive by asking permission. You survive by being ready. It started 3 days before the storm turned lethal. The forecast had flipped overnight from heavy snow to life-threatening. Winds over 60 miles an hour. Temperatures plunging to -20 with wind chill. In these high valleys west of Denver, winter doesn't negotiate. Everyone who's lived here longer than a couple seasons knows one hard fact. When the county plows give up on the side roads, I'm the only way out. I'm 61 now. After 25 years running heavy equipment logistics for search and rescue teams across the West, Alaska, Montana, the Sierras, I retired to this quiet ridge above Bailey. I kept my gear because old habits die hard, especially when the habit is staying alive. My rig was a beat-up 2006 Western Star with a 12-foot Fisher plow I'd rebuilt myself. I called her Bess. She wasn't showroom clean. Rust on the fenders, faded green paint, chains permanently mounted. But she started in -40, chewed through ice crust like it owed her money, and never once let me down. Every October, I parked her right where I could roll her out in under 2 minutes. No barn, no fancy shed, just my gravel drive with a clear shot to the ridge road that drops down to the highway. That road was the valley's lifeline. One narrow lane in, one lane out. I cleared it for free. Neighbors brought me coffee, firewood, venison sausage. We looked out for each other. Then the new subdivision went in. A developer from Aurora bought the south slope, slapped up 45 mountain contemporary homes with metal roofs and floor-to-ceiling glass, and formed the Pine Ridge Homeowners Association. Within 6 months, Margaret Voss, everyone called her Marge behind her back, took over as president. She moved here from Scottsdale to simplify. Instead, she brought rules. New covenants appeared overnight. No visible utility trailers. No boats longer than 18 feet. Seasonal decorations limited to 2 weeks. And Section 7.4, c. All equipment deemed unsightly or detrimental to property values shall be stored in an enclosed structure. Bess became target number 1. First citation arrived taped to her windshield on a 20-degree morning. Bright yellow paper flapping like a warning flag. Unauthorized outdoor storage, $2.50 fine. Corrective action required within 72 hours. I walked up to Marge's front door that afternoon, calm as I could manage. She answered in a cream-colored sweater, smelling like vanilla candles. Marge, that plow isn't decoration. It's how we get insulin to Ed Whitaker on Maple Lane. It's how we reach the clinic when 911 can't make it up the grade. There's a monster storm coming. National Weather Service is already calling it generational. She lifted a manicured hand. We've been over this, Jack. You're welcome to store it behind the garage or rent space at the storage yard in Conifer. The covenants are very clear. I pointed past her shoulder at the spotless living room. No grit, no salt stains, not a single boot print. If Bess isn't ready when the snow hits, we lose the entire ridge road. County's already at capacity. We'll be cut off for days. She gave a small, tight smile. Then perhaps the county should prioritize us. That's not my concern, nor is your tractor. She closed the door. I stood there a long moment, then went home and did what I'd done for decades in the field. I documented everything. Photos with timestamps. Video of Bess fully prepped, parked legally on my own driveway. Copy of my deed showing the access easement predated the HOA by 30 years. Printed NWS forecast stamped with the date. Folder labeled Pine Ridge Evidence, Winter 2026. That night the wind began to moan through the pines. By morning Bess was gone. A single sheet of paper was taped to my garage door. Removed per violation, Order 217. Noncompliance. Signed by the association's towing contractor, the one Marge's nephew owned in Golden. I made the calls. Tow yard. Sheriff's voicemail. Then Marge. Jack, she answered smoothly. We gave you 72 hours. There's a blizzard bearing down, Marge. You were warned. I'm simply enforcing community standards. If the plow was truly for everyone, you should have followed the rules. She hung up. I didn't yell. I didn't kick anything. I just looked at the white wall forming over the divide and listened to the snow begin tapping the roof like impatient fingers. By sunset, the valley was sealing shut. My neighbor Ed, 79, insulin-dependent, called asking if I could run him to the pharmacy before the roads vanished. I had to tell him the truth. They took Bess. She's gone. Long silence. Then we're in trouble, aren't we? I agreed, but I didn't say it out loud. Instead, I opened the laptop, scrolled through my footage, and started counting hours until whiteout. Before Pine Ridge, before violation notices and words like aesthetic compliance, I lived where cold killed in under an hour. I'd cut supply routes through the San Juans after avalanches, cleared landing zones above 10,000 feet in whiteout, kept oxygen flowing to trapped climbers when helicopters couldn't fly. I knew snow the way a tracker knows game. How it drifts on lee slopes. How wind crusts it into concrete. How temperature gradients turn powder into slab. That's why, when I bought this 6-acre parcel on the East Ridge 20 years ago, I chose it deliberately. No HOA then, just land, timber, and the original Forest Service access road that snaked down through my property to Highway 285. One way in, one way out. For years I cleared it myself. No one asked. No one paid. Everyone used it. Then the developer arrived with drone surveys and promises of elevated living. The HOA followed. Marge followed. And Bess, parked in plain sight for 2 decades, suddenly became an eyesore. I'd rebuilt her myself. New injectors, reinforced frame, auxiliary heat in the cab, solar trickle charger for cold starts. She could push through 8-foot drifts without bogging. Speed mattered when the weather turned. But Marge didn't ask questions. She fined. And now Bess was missing. The next day, the tow yard called. Mr. Harlan, your rig was dropped here with incomplete paperwork. You should probably come see it. I borrowed Ed's old F-150 and drove down before the next band moved in. The sky looked like bruised steel. Bess sat in the back row. Hood up, battery gone, hydraulic lines cut, transmission pan cracked open like someone had taken a sledge to it. The yard manager shook his head. This wasn't a tow. This was personal. I stood there staring at what was left of 20 years of careful maintenance. Something inside me shifted, not anger exactly. More like cold certainty. They hadn't just taken a machine. They'd tried to kill independence itself. That night, I started mapping. Old Forest Service topos. Elevation contours. The original access corridor that ran behind my woodshed, never deeded to the HOA, never surrendered. Buried under 3 feet of old snow since 2019, but still mine. If I could expose even a single lane down to the county road, I could get people out. Maybe not everyone, but enough. The snow began in earnest that night. By dawn it was coming sideways. I stepped into the wind with a shovel and a thermos of black coffee. I'd cleared 50 feet by noon when tires crunched behind me. Marge stepped out of her silver Lexus in a red parka that looked better suited to Vail than Bailey. Jack, I hope you're not creating an unauthorized path here. This is my land, Marge. According to the plat, yes. But if your little project intersects association access points, we may have an easement issue. I turned slowly. Marge, there's 6 feet on the main road already. No county plow in sight. If you don't want me opening a route, maybe you'd like to volunteer. She raised an eyebrow. The county will handle it. You checked the priority map lately? We're phase 4. That means next week at best. She shrugged. Then residents will shelter in place. We've got diabetics, a pregnant woman, 2 infants, and a dialysis patient in there. That's not my responsibility. I stepped closer. You sure about that? She paused, then spun and drove off. 10 minutes later, I was back digging. The snow was layered like concrete, soft on top, ice underneath, then packed granules like frozen gravel. My hands blistered. Shoulders burned. By dark, I'd made 70 feet. Not enough. But I wasn't stopping. Day 3, a neighbor knocked. Sarah Mills, 68, widowed, watching her 2 teenage grandkids for the holidays. Jack, Marge posted online, says you're illegally constructing a road to interfere with association emergency plans. I showed her the front yard camera footage. Marge approaching, threatening easement violations, me calm and quiet. Sarah's face hardened. Be my guest. That night, I added the clip to the evidence folder and mailed a backup drive to my sister in Pueblo. Then I went back out and dug. By day 5, the path was 200 feet long. That morning, an unmarked flatbed pulled up to my boundary. A man in a black hoodie stepped out. You Jack Harlan? I kept shoveling. Marge says you're making her look bad in front of the board. I glanced up. Your boss's nephew gutted my plow. He shrugged. Hard to prove damage when it was already old. I pulled the laminated deed from my pocket. This is private property. Your truck is on my easement. Move. He stared a long moment, then backed out. That night, I added 2 more trail cams. The association's next move was a community email. Obstruction of emergency access by resident Jack Harlan. Reckless trenching endangering property lines. But the truth was plain. No county plow had come. The main road was impassable, and the only route anyone had was the one I was carving by hand. Day 6, Carlos Rivera showed up, ER nurse, wife 8 months pregnant. Jack, Anna's having chest pressure. Not labor, altitude, maybe. I can't get the garage open. 911 says wait for county. I pointed down the trench. 2 more days, I'll have a lane to the highway. He looked at Bess's ruined frame half buried in the drift. They did that. I nodded. Carlos rolled up his sleeves. We dug together until our hands were numb claws. Every scoop felt like defiance. By afternoon, we'd gained another 100 feet. Then the snowmobile appeared. Marge, full white gear, pink goggles, idling at the fence line. You're creating a liability corridor, Jack. I laughed, short, cold. Marge, your roads are under 8 feet. You haven't lifted a finger. We were planning a volunteer effort. Your stunt disrupted everything. You gutted Bess because she didn't match the neighborhood palette. She flinched. The board authorized removal. I've got video. Your nephew's truck. The damage. Already filed with the county. Her mouth opened, closed. Then she revved and vanished into the white. Carlos muttered beside me. She's scared. She should be. That night the storm peaked. 2 inches an hour, visibility down to 10 feet. We diverted the trench to reach Maria Lopez on the west side. Her infant spiking a 103 fever. We tunneled through an ice dam using old fence posts as anchors, just like I'd done in the high country years ago. Maria met us at the door holding a flushed, crying baby. Thank you, she whispered. Marge said it wasn't her job. I only nodded. By dawn the path reached the highway. We radioed on the local repeater, Pine Ridge emergency route open. East Ridge to Highway 285. Locals only. First escort at 0700. My own son, Ryan, 12, bad asthma, was struggling. Breathing shallow. Lips tinged blue. I strapped him to an insulated sled, tucked evidence envelopes inside my coat. FOIA results showing misappropriated emergency funds, forged environmental letters, unlicensed towing, and started down alone. Halfway I passed HOA homes, lights flickering weakly behind frost. Faces at windows watching me drag my boy through the cold they helped create. I didn't stop. Didn't wave. Let them see. County EMS met us at the road, tipped by the reporter I'd sent the folder to. A paramedic looked at me. You got him here just in time. I nodded, but stayed behind. The story broke that afternoon. Colorado HOA destroys only working snowplow ahead of historic blizzard. Drone shots of the hand-dug trench. Security clips. Interviews with Carlos, Sarah, Maria. By evening, the county inspector arrived. Then the sheriff. Marge stepped onto her porch in snow gear. The sheriff handed her a sealed notice. She read. Went pale. Investigation opened. Criminal mismanagement of reserve funds. Destruction of private property. Negligent endangerment. The next morning, I pulled out my father's old Forest Service maps. He'd surveyed these ridges in the 70s. They showed the south slope, where Phase 2 now sat, was a designated snowmelt corridor, a natural drainage basin meant to prevent valley flooding. The HOA had built right over it, filled the swale, removed windbreak trees, submitted false environmental impact statements claiming no significant effect. I overlaid the maps with HOA plans. Perfect match. I sent copies to the State Department of Natural Resources, County Environmental Office, and a land use attorney I knew from rescue days, Elena Marquez. Her reply came fast. Jack, this is actionable. Constructive fraud, environmental misrepresentation, possible RICO if we prove pattern. I'm driving up Thursday. Don't speak to the board without me. The community met in Carlos's garage. No HOA banner, just folding chairs and a projector. Elena laid it out. Illegal diversion of emergency funds for landscaping. Destruction of BES. False filings. Failure to act during crisis. One board member, Tom the treasurer, admitted he'd signed without reading. The room went quiet. Elena spoke clearly. This isn't about mistakes. It's about patterns. And every document points one direction. She circled Marge's signature on the screen. That night we gathered signatures. Under Colorado law, 30% triggered a recall vote. We had 54 by midnight. The vote happened 3 days later, public count in the fire station. Marge removed. Tom removed. 2 seats open. No cheering. Just a long exhale. Marge came to my door the next week. No clipboard. Just a plain envelope. Inside, a check for $14,000, personal account, for BES. I handed it back. You can't buy this away, but you can start clearing driveways on Finch Circle. They're still iced in. She walked away without a word. The new board approved a real winter budget. No more landscaping diversions. Parts for BES arrived. Carlos sourced a rebuilt transmission. Tom, trying to make amends, helped install it. 6 months later, the snow was gone. The hand-dug trench was now a county-maintained emergency access road. Graveled, culvert, signed. BES sat at the top again, repainted forest green, brass plate on the dash. Winter 2026, cleared by neighbors. The state ordered restoration of the drainage corridor. 3 illegally placed homes would be removed over time. Trees replanted. Snow given room to flow again. The HOA charter was dissolved after the audit revealed years of misspent funds and forged documents. Marge left town in a U-Haul. No forwarding address. The neighborhood formed a volunteer council, not to enforce rules, but to coordinate. Winter prep, medical check-ins, shared generator fuel. No fines. No violations. Just people watching out for each other. The last thing I did was speak at the high school. Ryan's class was studying community resilience. I held up a photo of BES in the storm. This isn't about a plow, I told them. It's about what happens when we stop waiting for someone else to save us and start digging ourselves. Afterward, Ryan hugged me in the hallway. Thanks for not stopping, Dad. I ruffled his hair. Never will. What about you? Have you ever dealt with an HOA that crossed the line from neighborly rules into something colder? Something that felt more like control than community? Have you seen petty power turn into real harm? Or do you think associations are necessary, that without strict guidelines, everything falls apart? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every one. And maybe, just maybe, your story will remind someone else that when the storm comes, the only rules that truly matter are the ones we choose to live by. Thanks for listening. Stay warm out there.